Hi, this is John from Sharp Mountain Games, and in this video I'm going to give a recap of a recent Marvel Superheroes game that I ran. So if you've never played Marvel Superheroes, or maybe you haven't played it in a while, this will be a good chance for you to see what the system's all about. Now, I do run a streamlined version, so you'll be able to see some of the changes I made that I think make it run a little bit smoother online. And we'll do all that after the intro. So for this game, we used a slimmed down version of the old Marvel Face Rip, which was an old TSR game. And it's a D100 system. So every roll you make, you're rolling a D100 and checking the chart. And higher is better. So it's not a roll under system. And you can see the universal table over here. Now, I use a very slimmed down version compared to the actual one. So the colors tell you the level of success. And then I also changed it a little bit so that they also tell you the damage. So it gives you a little bit of variable damage. So let's say somebody has amazing strength and they roll to hit somebody. If they get a white result, it's a failure. A green is like hitting a partial success where they'll do 20 damage. And then a yellow would do the full 40 damage. And if they get a red, so that's the best, you see that's 91 to 100, there might also be an effect. And then you can check that down below. So maybe they stun somebody for a round. Maybe they slam them and move them back. And we can also use some of those special actions. They're all on the bottom of the chart there. So it's a little bit slimmed down compared to the old version, but it really still, at heart, is the old Marvel version. Now, I like streamlined characters. A personal view of mine is that streamlined characters are better for online play. And let's face it, superheroes are not all that complicated. If you look at Batman, okay, he's a businessman, he's a super detective, and kind of a super martial artist. And that really tells you a whole lot about Batman. You know, a few other little things. He lost his parents, and Alfred and Robin, a few relationship things. But really, skill-wise, that's where his main strengths lie. So you can see I have a couple listed here. These are the two, I had two players, and these were the two heroes we had for that evening. So we had an original who was kind of a Superman type, and then a speedster who was kind of the Flash type. And they have a few skills, a couple of special skills. I only used 4 attributes in this case, and then a couple of superpowers. So we started off with, you know, they're in the area and there's a bank robbery. And these guys were pretty easy for them to take care of. It wasn't a real big deal. So you have the Bolt, who was our speedster, and Captain Brawn, who was the Superman sort of type. And in all fairness to the player, he did have to think up a name pretty quickly. So that's how we have Captain Brawn there. And then also in the back of the bank was kind of a bigger threat, a robot. And, you know, that was hopefully to sort of lead them into some conclusions about that, all right, somebody, the villain, is making robots, and that's how this thing is going on. And they also questioned one of the guards, so they got to do some social interacting, you know, to get the next clue to where they needed to go next. And in some ways, this was a very linear adventure. I think sometimes with online play, they almost have to be a little linear because the GM has to prepare it. They can't be quite as sandboxy, maybe. But still, the players still have the choice of how to deal with the situation. So I don't think it's a total railroad. But, you know, that's a topic for another video, as they say. So they were all doing their rolls, you know, based on the universal chart. And what's really also nice about that universal chart is, you know, if you're not sure about something, well, I want to try something, and you don't have a specific rule. As a GM, it's great. I can just ask for a roll. You know, if they get a yellow or a red, then I know I really should give them most of what they were asking for. If it's white or green, I can, well, white they would fail, and then green I can kind of maybe give them a little bit of what they were asking for. So sometimes you don't even need to prepare ahead of time exactly for every single contingency. And then we had some social interaction at Stan's ice cream stand, and there's also Jack Kirby and his wife there. You know, at least for me, I always like to bring in people, famous people, where I can. I think it can be quite a bit of fun. And this was interesting too because it went in, again, although it was kind of linear, it went in a little different direction because the Bolt was suspecting that maybe the couple or Stan was in on all this, which was something I hadn't even considered. And maybe that could have been interesting too, although they weren't for the main plot. And so they get this idea that there might be aliens at this hideout at this old abandoned mine outside of town. And we go there next. And this was interesting, too, because the aliens were actually robots. But the dice were not rolling in the player's favor. Not at all. The aliens weren't all that tough, but they were rolling pretty well. So that's, I think one of the good things about role-playing games. Even as a GM or Dungeon Master, you can get surprised sometimes. But, of course, eventually they got past them. Now, this was another case where I think the universal chart proves really interesting. There was lasers in the corridor, going into the mine, pretty much a standard laser trap, almost like an arrow trap like you'd have in D&D. And so what the Bolt decides to do is to run really fast and then kind of do a baseball slide all the way through to see if he can get to the other side. And, okay, well, you can try that. And the player, who is Wes from DM's Tales, I'll try to link that below for his YouTube channel, rolls a red. That was just great. He rolled in the 90s. So, hey, whatever you decided, it worked. And he was able to get to the other side and turn it off. And then they poked around in the supervillains' headquarters a little bit. And, of course, it leads them eventually to the supervillains' lair. And I borrowed the leader from the old Hulk comic, whom I really liked. And then he was building a robot Hulk, That's the whole thing. There was this theft at the bank, and he's trying to get money to build all these robots and take over the world. Supervillains. And I think you can also see that our Captain Braun did really nice in this part, because he played the role. He went in and he kind of, was the meat shield and took a lot of the punches there. You can see he depleted his hit points a little bit. And, of course, they were able to defeat the leader. And this whole process took about 2 hours. Now, another thing that's interesting, and it went in a different direction than what I expected, was they really liked this lair. So when they took the leader in for questioning, took him to the authorities, their idea was, hey, we're not going to tell him about this mountain lair. This is pretty cool. Maybe we could use this as our superhero lair, which I think is just great, because then there's that incentive. Maybe the players will want to play again, and we can build on this, maybe like a little mini campaign. You can almost see it looks like there's a meeting room upstairs. So, as I said, it's always great when the game goes in directions you don't expect it to, even in a fairly linear adventure. So let's just summarize really quickly. The system runs very, very smoothly online. I just think it's perfect for superhero games. I don't see myself changing it, if I want to run superhero games occasionally in the future. It's especially easy because there's that single dice type. Every single roll is a D100, so if you want to program a quick macro in Roll20 or your system, or you just type it in, you only have to do that once. So I think that's really good for a superhero system. Would it work as well for a dungeon crawl, or maybe you want to do some different things? I don't know, but it works great for this sort of play, where superheroes are a little bit looser with the rules, maybe. And I was also maybe not surprised, but what I was pleased to hear was that the players really like the universal chart too. They can know exactly what they're doing. They can know exactly when they get an effect. And it's kind of like when you get that red result, it feels good, like rolling a natural 20. So, and I put the universal chart right in their character sheet, so it's very easy for them to find. One thing also that I think the universal chart does that's good, and there's other ways to do this in other game systems certainly, is it prevents whiffing a damage roll. So if you get a red roll, you're doing maximum damage and probably going to stun or have a knockback. You're going to have a big effect. If you roll a yellow, you're doing full damage. You don't have this situation where, hey, I rolled a natural 20 and I rolled a 1 on the damage dice. It just doesn't happen here. Another thing I should say is, you might say, well, where was Superman? Or where was the Flash? Or where was Batman? What they really liked was, hey, they're creating their own heroes. And I think, certainly there's that personal connection, but what also makes it easy, because in the past, I have run superhero games where they would play Spider-Man or The Thing or something like that. But when you're doing that, you really have to think about, well, how would this hero react? Because I want to try to keep it consistent with the comic books or movies or cartoons that I've seen with that character. Here you don't have to. You can kind of develop it as you go. For example, that Captain Braun character, he kind of turned out to be maybe half Superman and half kind of Adam West from the old Batman show, where he where, how are you citizens and things like that. So they were really able to develop. And also, too, a thing to remember is that, if you're a big comic book person, and I'm certainly a big comic book person, these heroes' personalities might be like second nature to you or I. But when you're playing in a group, hey, not everybody is into the comics or maybe that familiar with the heroes, and that's okay. That's fine. So by playing their own heroes, you don't have quite that problem. And certainly then no fighting over who gets to be Spider-Man or anything like that. And one thing I thought was really nice and why I really enjoy occasionally running superheroes or science fiction or something like that is it's nice that we don't have to be too fiddly with all the numbers and especially the spell descriptions. Spell descriptions can get a little bit wearing in Dungeons & Dragons and fantasy games, and what's this effect and how far does it go. So, we didn't really have to worry about this, so I could kind of just relax and run the game. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have great success with your own superhero games. Go ahead, give a different genre a try, and we'll see you next time. So here at Sharp Mountain Games, we have a few adventures in print, such as The Star Mermaid, The Dwarven Pickup Truck, and The Sky Tree, and you can check those out at Amazon, Lulu, and drivethrurpg. Also over on drivethrurpg, we have a number of other adventures and character classes, and even some stock art. On Roll20, we have some map packs and character cards, so you can check those out if you're interested. And as always, please like and subscribe, and we hope to see you again real soon.